Hey, everybody, welcome to Love and Reload, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I'm so blessed and honored to be here with my good friend, Nicole Barile, founder of Wandr. Hey, Nicole, how are you doing?
Hey, Ben, I am great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's so good to have you back. It's been too long, Nicole.
I know I can't remember now if it was, I think it was
Too
2020,
long,
but
too
yeah, either
long.
way, too long.
So get in the comments if you're watching us out there. Hit that like button. I want to hear from you. I want to know where you are, who you are. Give your company a shout out. Say what's up to Nicole. Welcome her back, because we used to do some really cool things with Nicole back in the day. Season one, whatever year that was, we did. Nicole brought to us Mobility Jeopardy,
Yes.
which was a gem of a series that we did here. And Nicole,
Oh,
you
man.
put so much work in that, and I thought it was so brilliant. And we had a few people who did things after that. You know, we did a Family Feud for charity. We did some things after that. We did a big old trivia. You know, we done some trivia stuff. But you really were the first one to bring like a segmentized game show idea to Love and Relo, and I can't thank you enough for that.
Nice. You're welcome. That was so much fun. Yeah, I've been thinking about bringing that back somehow. I don't know
Well,
yet,
you
but
know, since then that
yeah.
job is now open. And
Oh,
you could slide. I mean, rest in peace to the wonderful Alex Trebek, but I mean, I think you could really give that
that's
thing a
true.
run,
I haven't
honestly.
thought about it. I'm gonna apply. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's on it, Indeed or LinkedIn or where you would find that posting, but I don't know if we're hiring. Adrian, are we hiring for that job? I don't know, but yeah, no, I think you'd be wonderful at that, and I love always thinking
Yeah.
innovatively, Nicole.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks. I'll take a look. I'll look more into that later.
Yeah, we got people checking in here. Um, looks like we got people checking in. Hi, Nicole and Ben. Look at this. This is great. Looking forward to the interesting discussion. My eyes are going. That's what happens in season 5. Your eyes just go. Adrian Grimes, welcome to the show. What's up, Adrian? Let's recruit that Jeopardy host, Adrian, while you're out there. People getting in here. Tandra Chester checking in. Christian checking in. Corey checking in. That's awesome. So, Nicole, it's been a
Yes,
minute.
sir.
What have you been up to? All sorts of changes. I'm hearing about Wandr. Can you tell us about all this?
Yeah. So actually, last time I was looking back at last time I was on your show, and back then I didn't have a fully formed idea yet, to be honest, but I knew I wanted to innovate in the intercultural training space. And I had these pieces, but the idea just hadn't come together
Mm-hmm.
yet. And so it just clicked this year. And so I relaunched my business as Wandr. And for those of you that don't know, we are an intercultural training company. So we mostly work with expats, but the exciting innovating thing that we've done this year is focus on a mobile solution, which I'll talk maybe more about later, but really changing the way people learn. So right, as you put in the promo that went out, 20 years I've been in this industry,
Wow.
20 years intercultural training really hasn't changed. And I don't like to step on toes, but me, I'm
Step up
pretty I'm
for
pretty blunt
sure.
about it, and the content really hasn't changed. How people receive the content hasn't really changed. And so that's what I'm working on. I created a new way to learn cultural information that's more affordable. It's really unlike anything else out there, and I'm super excited about
Okay.
it. And we're also working on finalizing a solution for digital nomads as well. So I think that's really interesting because there's so many people I work with that don't get that benefit of cultural training because they're a self-managed move, right? They're saying, I'm going to go to Spain for a month and work and Brazil for a month and work, etc. And the company's like, okay, well, if they have that policy, right? Okay, go ahead. But they're not really getting any kind of cultural support. So we're working on that too.
Well, and it's not totally unlike some of the, lump sum type of assignments that we see nowadays as well. I mean, might
Exactly.
as well be digital nomads. You're just throwing out there to go figure it out on your own.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I'm super excited about just how people learn differently. I mean, obviously, I'm an intercultural, so that's what I'm focused on. But really, I'm just fascinated with how people learn And we have technology now that can make it a way better learning experience and just easier for people to access that information and get information in, bite-sized chunks, and just have it be able to be personalized. And so I don't think that's been done in the intercultural space.
I want to talk about it. We got people checking in here. Get in the comments, hit that like button. Let us know you're out there. Give your company a shout out. Let us know who you are, where you are. We've got Mendel checking in, saying good day.
Mendel, hi. Yes, Mendel, if I'm going to shout you out, he's from Australia, so he's allowed to put in a good day there.
Well, good day. There you go. We got a bunch of people checking in here. Names aren't populating for some reason. Let us know who you are. Dean Foster checking in.
My mentor. Hello, Dean.
And Dean's one of those names too. I mean, I remember when I got into this industry, you had Dean Foster. Was it Dean Foster International or something?
Dean Foster Associates. Yep.
Associates. Yep. And I was like, who's this Dean Foster guy? I see him all over the place. I want to have my name just plastered all over the conference here. Who's this guy? Tell me a little bit about your relationship with Dean.
Yeah, Dean is a big deal. One of my favorite people, and his wife Cheryl. I have to give her a shout out. So that's how I started my career at Intercultural in 2014. 20 years ago. 2004. Wow. Sorry, I can't do the math. 2004. Wow. I, long story short, got a job with Dean Foster Associates, and that is the first time I've met Dean and worked with Dean. And I was there for 10 years, and then 3 more years through an acquisition. So so Dean was my boss and mentor for a really long time, and still mentors me from time to time.
You never forget those people who kind of give you that chance and kind of give you that hand up into a role and teach you the ropes, right?
Right, exactly. And then just someone that you really think is a good person, a good human being, you know what I mean? So Dean and his wife, if not to get too sentimental, but they really do feel like second parents to me a lot. And I've just known them a really long time.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Shout out to Dean Foster there. Janet Turner, also one of my mentors. So good to see you, Nicole Barile. Yes.
Love Janet.
Thank you, Janet. Janet, our first producer here on the show. We love Janet. Hit that like button. Everybody get in there. I want to, you made a statement before, and I want to double click into it, that, the way people learn has changed. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So nowadays, I mean, you can even think about how people just intake information, right? Back in the day in intercultural training specifically, we had there were, even before my time, there were 3-day, 5-day in-person intercultural trainings, right? Then it went to 1-day, 2-day. Then now it's kind of a combo of virtual, maybe Zoom training, a few hours here and there, self-paced learning. But learning has changed in the way people consume the information. That's one of the ways, right? So people have a short attention span, right? That's why you have TikTok, right? And
that's why we have a 1-hour talk show. I mean, people,
right?
Well, no, then we have to clip it and say, okay, here's the best 30 seconds you missed.
Exactly, right? They say, I think the average attention span is 8 seconds, right? So people are craving information in shorter bites, and they want it to be active learning, not passive learning. So most of the learning that's out there, and sometimes that's okay. I don't want to crap all over the idea of.
Well, no, but is it stickier or less sticky? I mean, how is it? Yeah.
Well, that's a good question. So there are, and I have some stats somewhere, but when information is consumed in smaller bites, people retain that information longer. And they're more engaged when it's in shorter bites, right? So it's about, learning's changed because of the delivery, right? How do people access the information? Also, what is being changed, right? So how people learn because of technology. Again, in intercultural training, thinking, people used to need to know what is the currency of Japan and what is the weather in Chile, or, they used to know these things. It's outdated. You don't need that type of cultural information anymore. People are, new generations of expats, a lot of younger expats. they need the cultural information like do's and don'ts, right? How to do business in different countries and negotiate and make friends and meet people. You need that still. That I think is still important. But they want other information like, yes, I'm moving to Mexico City, but give me information on some other cultural things I should know, like traditions, and what are some experiences I can have while I'm there, right? They're really into experiences and learning that way, as opposed to just having somebody, talk at them, let's say.
This making me think of a lot of things. I'm going to ask you about the TikTokification of this. I'm going to call it.
Sure.
Christian says it's comparable to learning a foreign language today. How, is that an analogy? Is that apropos?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, culture and language. Is it similar, the process of it, and which is more important?
Oh boy, that's a big question. So yes, it is similar in, I think, with this comment that is comparable to learning a foreign language today, that yes, if I'm understanding, like if you think of the Duolingos, for example, of the world, you have an app you download and you're learning in small bites, right? The way I'm doing it is you don't even need to download an app. So it's a little bit even easier to access the information. But yes, it is similar to that. Which is more important? Well, you have to learn the language, right? If you're going to relocate to France, you're going to have to learn French, right? You won't be able to do your job. So,
well, hold on. I'm going to push back on this premise here, because what I've seen, and of course, I'm like an uninformed American who wants to pretend that I don't need to learn another language. So take that with a grain of salt, and feel free to call me out. But what I'm seeing now is more and more apps and Google Translates and whatever, for lack of a better word, where I can be like, hey, where's the baguette store? And it's like,
yeah,
hey, where's the baguette store? And it becomes more and more seamless that way.
True.
And I'm wondering if culture is harder to do that with.
So yes, you are correct. As a tourist in another country, or someone who's doing even maybe a short business trip, let's say your team in France is going to accommodate your lack of language skills, and maybe they'll work with you in English. But if you are relocating there, right, if we're thinking about international signees and expats, you're not going to be able to
That's fair.
Adapt, right? That said, yes, if of course I'm biased here, but I do think that cultural training is, I hate to say more important, but I'm going with that, more important overall, because I think one misconception maybe, I'm looking at the
this is a problem with our audience. They're too smart, okay? Unlike TikTok and Instagram, where they get dumb comments, we actually get people who are like, it's called a boulangerie, okay? Which I feel like is something my wife would wear, but apparently it's a bread store. I don't even know.
Yes, bakery or bread store. So the cultural, as I think a misconception about cultural training is that, let's say again, you're relocating to France, you're going to get cultural training. They're going to teach you everything you need to know about France. Hopefully, yes, but if done right, the information you learn actually can be applied to anyone you're working with. It should teach you how to work and communicate across cultures in general. So in that regard, I would say cultural training is more important, because you can apply it to a larger population. Whereas French, okay, there's, I don't know how many millions of French speakers in the world, but you get what I'm saying, that learning French is going to help you with French speakers, right? Where cultural training ideally is going to help you work with anybody that might have different values and different ways of working.
Yeah. So you mentioned that we retain more if we learn in bite-sized bits, and you mentioned like 8 seconds. Is 8 seconds like the number, or is it just representative of like a shorter amount of time?
You mean, do I think that's the number?
Is that like the sweet spot for bite-sized factoids?
That's what is said for attention span. The average attention span is 8 seconds, right? So But that said, like, for example, in the cultural training offering that we just launched, you could receive information that's pushed to you. You don't have to go find it anywhere. Okay. It's pushed to you, and it might be 2 minutes long, but each bite of information could be 8 seconds, if that makes sense. So I think the individual bites are 8 seconds. It's not just, okay,
Yeah.
this whole course is 8 seconds.
And is that because we can learn 100% of what we hear in 8 seconds, but we can only learn, 20% of what we hear in 8 minutes, for instance?
Yes, I would think that's a good analogy, right? Because people just don't engage, right? If it's longer than that, they're out of there. And actually, I think this was a stat I mentioned years ago when I was on your show that I like to use, which is also that it takes someone 7 seconds to decide if they want to engage with your content.
This is hilarious. It takes people 7 seconds to decide if they want to engage, and they only have an 8-second attention span.
I know, it's very short.
Oh, God,
I
that's
know.
hilarious.
So if the content isn't engaging, right, also, then people are just going to tune out too.
You know what's fascinating? I can watch 8-second content for 2 hours.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Isn't that interesting how the brain does that, right?
Yeah.
You want to see, right? It's like scrolling through whatever,
Yes.
stories or TikTok. You see these short little bites. It's easier for people to digest.
I will tune out of a 2-hour movie to go watch 8-second videos on my phone.
I know. I'm the
Oscar-winning movie, right? I'll be sitting there with my wife.
Right.
It'll be movie night, right? And I'll just be like, yeah, no, let me just go see this guy fall on his face. Let me see this chicken do something crazy. Let me see this paella. Wow, that's amazing. Like, and so how do we take that principle, and everybody's doing it, right? It pisses us all off when our significant other does it, or our coworkers do it, or whatever. Can you just pay attention to me? And then we all do it ourselves. So how do we take this and actually apply this to business in a way that actually we can kind of reverse engineer this habit we've created and actually use it to learn something?
Yeah. So, well, first I want to just say that why that's important is because I think in the industry, we talk a lot about the employee experience or the expat experience, but I don't think, and someone can tell me if I'm wrong, I don't think we've focused on what that means for learning, right? So do you know what I mean? When we talk about the expat experience, it's about maybe making things seamless for their move and making things easy. But I think we often forget about the learning components, like the language training or like cultural training. That's a big part of the employee experience. So by bringing it to people's fingertips, we can increase or improve that experience that they're having.
Yeah, love it.
So
love it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can go, I'm like, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I just think that the technology that we have today can make it where information is pushed to people. It is active learning, not passive learning. And also, because I recently watched the last time I was on your show, we talked about that a little, which was my struggle, for lack of a better word, with portals, right? And I think you had agreed, right?
Portals are the worst.
And they can be good in some ways, but right, thinking back to let's talk about expat experience. They have to log, each provider has their own fancy portal, right? And they have to log in to each of those. People don't do it. And I had done, and I can't speak for every company, but I had done the research where I've worked previously to see how many people were actually logging into the LMS or the learning management system we had. And it was less than 5%. Less than 5% of people were logging in. And I don't blame them, right? They are given login credentials for maybe 5-10 different services. And so what we can do is actually push the information or drip the information to them so that you can receive texts. So Ben, you're moving to France and you can say, you know what? I want 2 texts a week on,
Yeah.
relocating to France. Here's what I want to personalize it. Here's what I want to know about. And bam, you get texts that are in short little bites. You don't have to download an app. You don't have to remember your login credentials.
Now, are those culture training, are those bites, are they in English or French? I'm really curious.
Oh, I'm glad you asked me that, because I probably would have forgotten to say that is another plus of technology today. And I don't want to say AI, but essentially, AI, you can if you're using certain technology like what we're using, you can have that in, right now we have it about 20 different languages. And this is something that I'm kind of embarrassed to say for the intercultural training industry. Again, maybe someone's going to disagree here. But most intercultural training companies do not have their content in other languages, which
Oh, wow.
is...
So it's all like it's in English then?
It's often in English, but if you have a trainer, so right, let's say you're moving to France and you have your trainer in Paris that's delivering the training for you, they might use a PowerPoint that is in English, but they probably are going to speak in French if you speak French, something like that, right? But most of the time, the content is not translated. And if it is, maybe it's in Spanish, or, if that client speaks German, they want it in German. But with this technology, it's pretty seamless to have it in any language, which is more inclusive, right? I can't remember who it was from Cardis that was on your show a little while ago talking about...
Lisa Johnson, probably.
Yes, it was Lisa. Yes. Talking about, I think, inclusion in the international or the expat worlds. I can't remember exactly what it was on. And I was thinking about this, where you would totally think that intercultural training would have it in every language. Most of them, I'm telling you, don't. And I understand it, because if you have a learning management system or you have PowerPoint decks, it's really cumbersome and often costly to translate that into a lot of languages. But again, with technology, with the small bites and the mobile friendly approach, you can have it in really any language.
Yeah, because I mean, think about the amount of cultures times the amount of languages you'd have to translate that into. It'd be a ton.
It's hard.
Hit that like button. Get in the comments if you've got questions for Nicole in any language. I'll just make her read it. So please get in the comments here. How many languages do you know, Nicole?
Just Spanish and Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese.
Okay.
So that's it. I tried French, tried Italian. They didn't really stick. So yeah,
well,
3.
We're learning French today together. Janet says, are you just working with the cultural differences for the international market, or do you also do it for domestic locations?
Yeah. Hey, Janet. Well, traditionally, we've done it for the international market. Honestly, most companies don't see the need for the domestic market, but you bring up a great point.
Janet's from Staten Island. She's like, these people need to know something before they come over here. Okay. All right.
Exactly. Right. And a lot of, because this is part of what I do when I'm talking to companies, is that it really is for your entire workforce, right? And if people, I always say, like, if people don't ever leave their couch, right, you're working from home, you're still probably on a global team, right? Because people are relocating, whether or not you probably are working with somebody in another country, whether it doesn't even have to be at your company, right? It can be a supplier, a partner, a vendor, right? They could be located in another country. So ideally, yes, the cultural training we offer is for domestic relocation as well. And also that hits on something else that we do at Wandr that no one else is doing, is that we focus on belonging. And most intercultural training is about the do's and don'ts, right? The stuff I said earlier, which you need. But, and I'm sure a lot of you in the industry have heard this stat about, failed assignments, and why do assignments fail, and why do people go home early? And usually you'll hear, well, because people couldn't adapt to the culture. So that is true. But if you dig deeper, it's really because they feel like they don't belong. And that can happen domestically too, right? So we have several, I will call them courses, but mini bites on belonging and increasing that sense of belonging in any new place. So that can be used for domestic relocation. We have a framework around belonging. As well, we have an assessment around belonging so people can kind of see where those changes are happening throughout the assignment.
I think that's such a great point. We say people can't adapt, but really they just didn't feel like they belonged.
Right.
And I felt like I don't belong often in my life. And I know what that's like. And, and people, and then what do? They go home back to where they belong.
Exactly.
And I love the idea of you being able to bring belonging to people. And the same thing is true regardless of geography, just talking about, the workplace, right? It's like feeling like we belong in a workplace of different cultures, right? I mean, how often do we talk about people, we say people aren't a culture fit, and then we talk about what is that code for? What does that really mean? They're not a culture fit. And in an office where there's multiple culture, I mean, gosh, we all bring our own culture, even here in the US, right? But then, actually a really good point was brought up here by, I'm trying to find out who said it, because LinkedIn's not citing it. Yeah, LinkedIn user 00975 says, your boss could be an immigrant, but US based. Great
Absolutely.
example.
Yeah, I was just talking to someone. We have a client who is relocating someone. I'm trying to think where they were from. Oh, they're from Pakistan, relocating to the United States, working for a large global company. The person they report to is Brazilian, who is also an expat in the United States. And then they have people on their team that are in the United States, but from Mexico, from Costa Rica, from Argentina, I think, from India. So absolutely, right? So it really is information that's can be used for anybody, because the world is just so global these days.
Yeah, and Christian swears he's not a bot. I don't know. We'll see. Thanks, Christian. Yeah, it's really interesting because also, I mean, gosh, cross-cultural teams. I mean, we're Global, I think we're like a team of 6, right? Well, we've got, Americans, and then we've got someone in Brazil, and we've got someone in India.
Yep.
Right. And we're all on calls together, and what do people mean when they say this? And what does the head nod mean?
Right.
And all that stuff, and it's like, and we're a small, tight-knit team, but I can't imagine if you got a team of 30 people across time zones or more, and you're trying to communicate and rely on one another to kind of pass work back and forth. And
yeah, absolutely. A big one that when we work with global teams, a big topic is, what does collaboration look like? Because everyone likes to think they're collaborative.
Yes.
And everybody is, I would like to say, but it looks differently, right? So
what does that mean? Tell me more about that.
So for example, and everyone might have a different experience, but when I've worked in the US on global teams, I tend to, let's say I'm on a team of 10 people and we're doing one big project together, but we each have our own piece to do. I'll say, okay, here's my piece. It's done. You did your piece. You did your piece. Put it together. Done. I've worked a lot with Brazilians, and I have been once told that I could be more collaborative. So I'm like, what? And then I understood, because they wanted to talk about, well, let's get together now and talk about the part Nicole did, the part that Ben did, the part this person did, right? So they wanted to discuss each part together as a group and then kind of sign off on that. And that's also because they're more generalizing group oriented, where in the US we're more individualistic and I'm more individualistic. So it's like, that was my role. I'm done with it. We're good. They wanted to have more of a conversation about it. So teamwork looks a little bit different. So that's just one example. So that causes a lot of issues. And to your point earlier about culture fit, right? So this kind of spills over into diversity and inclusion. We work a lot with expats coming into the US where you don't, this is a fine line, right? You don't have to change everything about who you are, but how we focus a lot on how that person is going to be perceived. So for example, you know, if you're coming into the US from Brazil and you have this very group oriented approach to work, what are your US colleagues going to think about that? Right. And so when we think about what does a good leader look like, or what does good teamwork look like, or good communication look like, we all have those ideas about it, if maybe we've never thought about it before, right? And so if someone doesn't have the same style, we kind of jump to these conclusions.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Hit that like button, get in the comments, put your questions in here. Really curious, especially if you've worked in another culture, really curious about that. You know, along those lines, Nicole, how much can we expect people to assimilate to the host culture, and how much of that is maybe not fair, or maybe losing a little bit of their culture in the wash?
That's one of the trickiest things, is finding that balance. And you even see that in diversity inclusion, how, you know, friends of mine, colleagues of mine that are not white have to show up differently, right, at work every day. Unfortunately, that's a reality. When people are working internationally, if you are the only US American on the Indian team, you are going to have to adapt. So we try not to say the word assimilate anymore. I mean, things, you know, word language change. It has more of a negative connotation these days, but it's a balance. You have to stay true to who you are, but where possible, alter some of your behavior. So a lot of times we'll say that, right, if you see someone's behavior, it comes from their values. So for example, if you see someone saying, you know, sorry, I can't help you, that's not my job, right? That's a behavior. We see them, you know, not willing to help us. Well, where does that come from? That might come from this value of self-sufficiency and individualism, and they think you should be that way too, right? But where I'm going is the value, you can still hold on to your values, but how they show up in your behaviors can change. So you're asking people to flex their behaviors and stay true to their values.
Well, that's hard, because you said because you said behaviors are a product of their values, right? So it
is not easy. It's the hardest thing, right? Change is the hardest thing, right? And so the more people interact with people from different backgrounds, that could be international, it could be within the United States, right? The more you interact with people different from yourself, the better at that you're going to get. But it is a balance. I mean, you're going to, if I went to Mexico and I was, you know, never really interacting with my team, just didn't say hi or goodbye, just went home, did my job, went home, probably would not feel like I belong there, would probably not be viewed as a good team member, right? So there are things that we have to adjust about ourselves in order to belong.
Love it. Makes a lot of sense. Mendel says, when I moved to St. Louis in the late 90s, I definitely felt like I did not belong.
Sorry to hear that, Mendel. Yeah. It's, I mean, super common, right? And Ben, you said you've experienced this. I lived in Argentina. I lived in Mexico. I've experienced this in little pockets in work life in the United States, where I feel like I'm the weirdo, or I don't really fit in this group, right? So it's really important to focus on that belonging. It's also a balance of meeting and interacting with locals, because this is how you're going to learn about the culture quickly, but then also finding people that have similar or shared experiences. So other expats, other international assignees, because they understand what you're going through.
Yeah, really cool. Mendel says culture add trumps culture fit any day.
Mendel, are you stealing my content? I wrote, no, I'm just kidding, but I did not coin that, but I wrote something about that a long time ago. I did not make that up, but absolutely. Right. And Menzel works at a global organization. And I will say that thankfully a lot of big global organizations these days do see the value in cultural training and do offer it across the board to just everyone. Obviously not all companies, but and they focus on we are different, but that adds value, right? So
yeah, really cool. I like that idea. You know, we're looking at adding new people to our team here at Glomo, and one of the things that my team said to me was, "Hey, don't ruin the culture. Don't screw this thing up. You know, we got a good vibe. You know, don't mess it up." And I thought about that. I'm like, well, yeah, I don't want to screw it up, but I want to add depth to it. I want to add there's strengths, there's values. I mean, we have our core values, but there's things that we can add to this sauce to make it a little deeper and a little more interesting. So
and you can find that balance, right? I did that once. There was someone that I had hired where I was working for the team that I wasn't sure if, they had the same company team values, right? That were shared, but they were very different from everyone else. And I was a little, nervous and wondering, is this my bias because this person's so different? And we ended up hiring that person. And of course they were amazing. And we all learned so much from that person. And but it sometimes feels uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Because it does. And that's what bias is. But
anyway. Yeah, it feels like a risk,
Yes,
it's like,
exactly.
Very cool. We got a question here. Keep those questions coming. We got time for maybe one or two more. Here's a question for you, Nicole. How can expats continue to develop their cultural competence during their assignments?
Yeah. So you have to put yourself out there, right? So you have to interact, like I was saying earlier, interact with people outside of work, right? A lot of people go to work and then go home. There are, in most major cities where many expats are relocating to, there are large intercultural communities. So I think that's the easiest thing you can do, right? Let's say you are from Mexico and you're relocating to Nigeria. Well, interact with people. It doesn't have to be from Nigeria, right? Interact with people from Singapore or Hong Kong or wherever. That we don't often realize it, but that's practicing that cultural competence. That's learning, and then also practicing how we adapt to different styles. And then also, I mean, I'd have to say that's one of the things that I had been thinking about in creating this new product, which is intercultural training is often either a one-time event if it's done in person, or if it's done via Zoom, maybe you have 2 or 3 hour sessions. If you hear a weird noise, it's just my dog.
I did. Is your dog okay?
He's okay. I think he has a cold. He's been coughing.
So he had a chicken bone or something.
That's what it sounds like.
I was like,
no, he's been like that for a couple of days. But yeah, even on Zoom, when you do cultural training, it's maybe 2 or 3 sessions and then it's done. And so being able to have a mobile approach that drips content to you, you can choose to have that continually throughout your assignment.
Yeah.
Right? So
I like that.
It's and forever until you opt out, you can keep getting dripped information that's going to help you build that cultural competence. But other than that, it's really pushing outside of your comfort zone, interacting with as many people as possible. Companies might have options for that as well, right? Sometimes large multinational companies will have ways for the international signees to get together. And of course, you can self-educate if you're not getting any kind of support from the company.
I like this concept though. Instead of having like a big cultural learning feast at the beginning where you're stuffed and you can't digest it and whatever, and there's all this waste. Instead, you're adopting this snacking approach, this grazing, throughout over time, and
right,
I really like that idea. So, is it, is it like I mean, tell me about this Wandr product though,
Yeah,
because
sure, sure.
I'm really curious as a global mobility professional,
Mhm,
as a business person. It seems like you've thought a lot about the product and how to better engineer it to
mhm.
today's uh, consumer, whether it's a an assignee or a digital nomad or whatever.
Right.
So plug the product a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. So, as I said a couple of times and earlier, it's a digital mobile friendly product. So, it's actually in learning and development. It's called M learning, right? So you heard of like micro learning, e-learning. This is M learning or mobile learning, and
Mhm.
essentially it's learning that gets pushed to a mobile device, or it could be your phone, it could be an iPad. There are other ways to access it, but ideally, the best experience is through your phone. So,
Makes sense.
yeah,
Mobile
so
first. Yep.
exactly, mobile first. So, it allows for the continuous learning that we were talking about. It's personalized, it's more engaging and interactive. So, you can actually embed um, my dog.
He's having a tough time. Poor
It's
dog.
okay, buddy. It's
Is
okay.
is it
Yeah.
scrollable like how we get so
You actually tap. So this is what, and I could share if anyone wants to see what it's like. Put a message in
yeah, I'm
the
really curious.
in here. Oh, boy, sorry.
It's all
I
right.
can't tell what you're hearing, but
I pretty much
oh,
I hear it.
you hear it
It's all
all. Oh,
good.
sorry,
It's all
poor
good.
guy.
We're pro dog on the show here.
Yeah.
Everybody loves to
Uh,
hear from the dogs, see the dogs.
I was going to bring it up, but let me see. Here we go. So essentially, yeah, message me if someone wants to see it. But essentially, you can get a text and then
Okay.
it brings you to the content and there's me. And then you just tap.
And you're just tapping.
You're just tapping like you would through Instagram stories or something.
Sure.
There
Yeah.
are videos in here. I don't know if you can see that. There's
Sure.
GIFs. I always say it wrong. GIFs in here.
Everybody
GIFs.
wants to say gifs. It's supposed to be gifs, but
Is
everybody
it
wants to say gif.
whatever?
So it's one of
Yeah.
those things that like we mispronounce it on purpose because it just
There
sounds
we
better that
go.
way.
There we go. Yeah. So, so you just tap. It's super easy. Again, there's no login. You can get a text. It can be international folks sometimes want it through WhatsApp, whatever. But you can get a text. You can get an email, but it's a text, and then once it's opened, you are tapping through. It can take you out of there, right? Like, so I like that because let's say there is I don't know, a topic that you want to learn more about,
Yeah.
you don't have to have all that content in the little learning bite sent to you. It'll say, do you want to learn more? Click here, right? So then on your own time, you can dive deep if you're super curious about the history of piñatas in Mexico, right? Or
I am
whatever.
actually
Whatever.
kind of curious about
Yeah.
piñatas, and I was at a birthday party this weekend,
Oh,
of a 10-year-old, the Big
uh-huh.
10, and the
Yeah.
piñata came out,
Fun.
and I'm like, how did we get here?
Yeah. So see, you could go down a rabbit hole if you would like. But yeah, so it's bite size. It's the engaging content is, if you could see some of it, you can embed videos inside it, like little reels inside there. And it allows for people to learn from anywhere, right? So going back to, is it digital nomads or just being more inclusive? One of the issues where I used to work, one of the issues we had was how do you get a busy expat to attend a training in general? But what about people that don't have desk jobs? So deskless workers. So people that are in the lab all day, people that are on a factory floor
Yeah.
all day, or in a field or on an oil rig.
Yeah.
How do you get, or have second shift, third shift jobs? They can't maybe sit for a 30-minute training or 1 hour training. How do you get that information to them? So that's another benefit, and why honestly it's more inclusive. And so yeah, it's really bringing cultural training to your fingertips, because you do not have to go searching for the information. It can come directly to you.
Wow, this is it's really interesting, and I love the application for kind of the the general person, right, who decides, hey, I want to go somewhere. And so are you, is this a B2C product as well? I mean, are you marketing this to individuals and not just corporations?
Well, right now, because it's so new, we're marketing it to companies that have international workforces, people on global teams, expats, etc. But we're hearing a lot of feedback, like you said earlier, like, oh, this would be great for lump sum. So it's still through the company, though, right, at this point. But
sure,
that is definitely something that we want to explore, but just haven't gotten there yet because yeah, go ahead.
It's hard to do. I mean, wrapping your arms around a consumer population and the cost of customer acquisition, getting on the socials and keywords. I mean, it's hard.
But definitely, yes, that is something. We're looking at the student population as well, students that study abroad or incoming international assignees. Dean, I see you there. Access to continuous ongoing cultural support is so important. Yeah, because most of the time it's over. And that's when people have the questions, right? Like later on is when they have the questions.
I think we have a question right now in studio.
Is it about my dog?
I thought the dog had something you want to say. I actually like this though, because also I'm getting texts. It's so crazy. Your dog's hacking up along over there.
Yes.
I'm getting texts from my wife and my realtor saying that our offer on our house was just accepted.
Oh, okay.
So,
yay.
I just bought a house.
Okay.
Woo, yay.
Woo.
So now I'm like trying to like read these pop-ups on my on my phone or whatever anyway.
Yeah.
So are you looking at selling like licenses to the company, like just a whole company license, or on a per user basis?
Both. And I mean, just because in my it's me laughing at my dog. In the past, and just still talking to clients today, it really just depends on the clients, right? And so some of them just want to pay per user or per family, we only have 10 expats a year, so that's all we want. And then others, it makes more sense to do a license, a yearly subscription or license every year. So it really just depends on, honestly, the population that they have and where they see the benefit.
Cool. I like it. Yeah. All right, Nicole, we're already having fun here, but let's play a little game here. You want to have some fun?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's play some games. All right, we're gonna get into our favorite game here. It's overrated, underrated. All right. Overrated, underrated. Now, the last time you were on the show, I don't know if we had this segment yet.
We did not have it. No.
Now, this is a fairly self-explanatory game, but I do have to ask you, do you know the rules?
I think I know the rules. Is there something I should know that maybe people don't know?
Well, it's not super intuitive. There's two rules. One, I'm going to give you a topic, and you are going to tell me if it is either overrated or underrated. Those are your only two options. Don't get cute. Don't go off script. Don't overthink it. It's just one or the other. All right?
Okay. Got it.
The second rule is I'm going to tell you if you're right.
Oh, based on your perspective?
Just me.
Okay. That's fine. And do I just have to take it, or can I?
No, you can argue with me. I prefer it, actually.
Okay.
Yes, please bring on the arguing. And
okay, good.
And you can call me names. It's fine. It just, it's how New Yorkers, show affinity for one another. Jillian says, love the dog chiming in.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah. He's really okay. It sounds worse than it is.
Jillian's a dog mom. She gets it.
Okay.
All right, let's hop into it. First topic up. Fancy restaurants. Overrated or underrated?
Overrated.
Well, okay, what do you consider a fancy restaurant? Like anything with a cloth napkin? I mean, what are we talking about?
Yeah, cloth napkin, fancy, like little bite-sized food that's super, super expensive. Overrated, right? When I travel, people are like, oh, there's a Michelin star restaurant in, I don't know, in Copenhagen. You have to go there. And not to say those experiences can't be great, but I'd rather go to those like local hole in the wall places that somebody tells you about randomly, and it's just not fancy.
Think about where we're at today. If I go to Goodyear and the tire guy says, "Oh, you got to go eat at this restaurant," am I going to go out of my way and wait on a list for like 6 months for a Wednesday night reservation at 5:00 for 2?
I'm not.
Because the Goodyear tire guy told me it was. So that's where we're at with Michelin. This is a
Right.
tire company. Let's not
I
lose
hear
sight,
you.
people. Okay.
We agree. We agree.
Now,
I think. Oh, maybe not.
I have no qualms with a cloth napkin. All right.
Yes.
I
same.
need absorbency. I need something that can stand up to some
Okay.
grease when I'm leaking birria out of my mouth. Okay, because I
Good
bit
one,
off
good
more than I
one.
can chew. I need something that's going to hold the line between
Yes.
my beautiful custom shirts and that grease that will not come out.
That's a good point. So yeah, I agree with you there. They can have cloth napkins, but actually, fun fact, my dad used to have a linen supply business when I was a kid. So he used to, and I think maybe that's also why I have an issue with fancy restaurants. So he used to barter sometimes, so we'd get like a really fancy dinner for free or whatever. He'd take it off the bill for the napkins and tablecloths or something. So yeah.
And you're like, Dad, you should have charged for those tablecloths. What are you doing? I got three amuse bouches over here. It's not dinner, Dad. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So overrated.
Yeah. I like eating stuff I've never had before. I like trying things I've never tried, tasting new tastes.
But I'd rather do that like street food.
Yeah.
In a market. I don't know.
Yeah.
My preference.
I agree. And then you leave and you're like, okay, that was interesting. And you get a $500 bill and you're like, wasn't that interesting?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Sheesh. Could have learned like 2 languages and a culture for that,
Right. At least.
Mendel's checking in here. Look at this. Laundering of cloth napkins is not so good for the environment. Compostable paper napkins are both. Can I compost the greasy napkins, Mendel? All right. It just seems like we're mixing our wastes over here.
That's another important point. I'm glad he added that. Yeah. See? Not good for the environment.
Good thing the Bariles are out of the napkin business.
Right.
You'd be catching a lot of heat over here.
I know. I wonder what. Yeah. I'm sure there's better options these days, but still.
Yeah. I don't know. I've seen paper tablecloths and I don't know.
Have you ever been to, I don't know. I haven't seen them in the US, but I remember when I lived in Argentina, and I've seen it elsewhere. I just can't remember. They're napkins, but it's almost like little sheets of wax paper.
No.
How
does that work? Odd. Does it absorb?
I don't know why they exist. Maybe someone can tell us.
Are you supposed to like scrape the stuff off, like scrape the grease off?
I don't know. I remember thinking it was, and this was a long time ago, so I don't want to pick on Argentina or Buenos Aires.
On Argentina. Our ratings are very low in Argentina.
Okay.
You're not upsetting anybody.
But yeah, I have to ask one of my friends there, because I don't know. They don't absorb anything, just pushes the liquid around.
No bueno. We don't like that. No. All right, you got 1 point so far, Nicole. Fancy restaurants be damned. All right, next one up. Traveling alone. Overrated, underrated.
This one is easy for me. This is way underrated. Really? I love traveling alone. I think more people should do it. I know that it can be, I have a lot of friends that won't do it because essentially the fear of doing it. Right. And for whatever reason, I'm going to be lonely, or what am I going to do all day? Or I'm not going to talk to anybody. I like my me time. So I'm like, I went to Poland recently for 9 days, something like that, by myself. Wow. If I don't want to talk to anybody, I don't have to talk to anybody. It's glorious.
Well, and it makes it easy when you don't speak Polish too.
Well, that's true. That's true. then you can't really talk to many people.
Farrell's saying underrated. Do your own thing and go where you want, when you want. Love it.
Yes, thank you. I totally agree. I mean, I honestly got forced into it because as you get older, right, it's harder to find friends, or even my sister who wants to go where I want to go at the same time,
Has the time off, has the money.
Exactly,
I mean, there's a lot
exactly.
going into it.
So then years ago, I started saying, I just go by myself. And so now I book it and then I'll tell people, hey, I'm going to do this trip. And if they can go, great. If not, that's good too.
And you know what I like about that? You've already booked it, because what
Right.
happened is you bring somebody in the equation
Oh,
and now they're like, oh, well, what if we go a few days early? And what if we stay a little over here? And what if we do? No. I already got the tickets. I got the hotel. I got the dates.
Exactly.
You're riding shotgun. You're not grabbing the wheel here. Okay.
Right. I mean, I like my group trips. I do trips with my sister and stuff, but I really think it's underrated to travel by yourself.
You know what? Jana on our team, Jana Chesnowski, she swears by it. She loves going.
Cool.
She travels all over. Yeah.
Nice.
Alone. Usually once a year for like around her birthday.
Oh, that's fun.
Yep. Late January. She'll end up going somewhere alone. She's gone to Peru. She's gone to Colombia.
Nice.
She goes all over the place. Yeah. So
yep.
She swears by it. As a married father of two, it's a little hard to swing it. I tried doing it though. I had 3 weeks off this summer. My wife and the kids were gone for 3 weeks to go visit her parents up in New York. And I had 3 weeks and I was like, okay, this is my chance. I get to go I'm going to try to do Paris. I'm going to try to do like Italy. I couldn't get to San Antonio. Oh. Honestly, I just couldn't get away. I was just like,
well, you're a busy guy, so it's hard to get away. It is hard to get away, so you have to make time for that.
Best place you've ever traveled alone?
Oh, well, actually, I think that's a hard question. I'm thinking. I was just thinking about this today, so I'm going to say Seoul, South Korea, because it's on my mind. I was thinking of my trip there, which I think was in 2019. So yeah.
Was it the food, the culture, what was it? What
people? Well, I love the food, so yes. But it was the experiences I had. So that's what I love traveling by myself. I feel like you actually become more approachable. If I'm traveling with my partner, if I'm traveling with my sister, people don't usually come up and talk to you. But if I'm traveling by myself, they're more curious. Like, what do they see you're a foreigner, right? Yeah. Like, what are you doing by yourself here? And so they start talking to you. And so I just had some really good experiences and met some great people, great women actually, that were also solo travelers that I still am in touch with. So.
Wow. That's awesome. That sounds great.
That was
all right. You know what? This sounds like a wonderful plan. I got to do it. Honey, if you're watching, I'm going somewhere, maybe Korea. I don't know. I'm going somewhere. Let you know. I'll set the dates. Liv, and then you can let me know if you can make it or not.
There you go. Yeah.
Does it work if you're married? You can set
I don't know for your
spouse
or partner, but yeah. Try it. Tell me what happens.
Yeah, you'll be the first to know. Okay. All right, 2 points for Nicole. The third one up here is tourist spots. Overrated, underrated?
Overrated. So like if someone's like, oh, you have to go, and people will hate on this, I think, but there are a lot of big tourist spots that I've literally just stood outside and said, okay, I've seen it. Like the Louvre in Paris, I hate to say, the Olympics are happening. Didn't go in. The line was
Didn't go in the Louvre.
No, I saw it. The line was too long. And I said, you know what? I just want to explore and I like more seeing the hidden parts of the city. And I know people love museums, and that's great. I'd rather just go down these little side streets and find some surprises along the way. So, I mean, they're good, but I'm telling you, I can't think of, I'm sure there are, but like the main tourist attractions.
Yeah.
There aren't many, if any, that I can think of that I really thought was, I don't know, like can't miss. Can you think of one?
You know what would be interesting if you know how they have like B-sides to a record or something.
Yes.
Like the deep cuts, right?
There you go.
So it would be interesting if they did like a tourist attraction B-sides, right?
I love that.
So like instead of like the Statue of Liberty,
Yes.
the Staten Island Ferry.
Okay, there you go.
You know what I'm saying? You
Right?
can see the statue. You get a free ride past her. Hey, how you doing, Lady Liberty? And then you touch and you come back, right? And then it's like done, right? I did it. I saw it.
I love that. And that's funny actually, because I tell people this. So there is a small park. I'm not remembering the name because I haven't lived in New York now 7 years, but there's a small park in Red Hook, Brooklyn with a pier. And it is the closest viewing point of the Statue of Liberty besides taking the Staten Island ferry. And so I usually tell people that, right? Because I'm like, okay, you know, Statue of Liberty, it's cool to see, but that's a good example. I'm like, I've been there. I'm like, okay, it's cool historically speaking, but I could also see it from this pier in Red Hook, Brooklyn, and be just as happy.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. We should come up with a whole B-sides map, right? So you want to see a place and you don't have as much time, you don't have as much money. Here's the, the down and dirty version.
Or you Adrian, just don't like waiting in lines. That's my thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
Adrian, Times Square. Oh yeah. But I mean, I would tell people all the time. I actually have a list on my phone when I meet people, like I share it with them. Here's all the places to go in New York. And I usually say, like, you're a tourist, you have to see it, but is it amazing? I mean, to some people it is. To some people it is, but I try to avoid it.
So for me, the B-side to Times Square would be Grand Central Station.
Oh, okay.
Lex and 47th, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, hey, it's adjacent. You get the crowds. You get to walk through the central area. You look up. Now they clean the ceiling. You see all the constellations and everything. I can call it good. No line.
I'd rather be at Grand Central. Yeah, right. I see Jillian. I avoid it every time. Yeah, absolutely.
We did a photo shoot with Jillian at Grand Central. Actually, Adam, our producer.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah, we shot a Glomo commercial there. Yeah.
I didn't see it. I'll have to look.
Yeah, we pulled all the necessary permits, did it totally legally. It was great.
Awesome.
Tourist spots. All right. You know what? You went out on a limb here, and you're rewarded with a point here. Okay.
All right, 3 for 3.
Yep. Mesilla, Las Cruces, New Mexico. No lines, but beautiful architecture and great food.
Thank you, LinkedIn user, whoever you are. I have to go closer to read it. I have not been to Las Cruces yet, so I am going to have to add that to my list.
Yeah. See, Adrian he rarely agrees with me. He says my wedding photos were done at Grand Central.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I love Grand Central.
We like it. All right, next one up. You're 3-0. 90s R&B.
Okay, I'm laughing at this one. I don't know if we have anyone on that likes 90s R&B like I do, but underrated.
Okay, I need you to be more specific. Give me like a group or something.
Sure. So I know because I think it's where I live now too. Like living in New York, a lot of my friends like 90s R&B. Living in Cleveland, I have a couple friends that like it, but I think that everyone thinks it's all like those cheesy bands.
Give me that
I would like Jagged Edge. I don't know.
Yeah, Jodeci,
right? But those people, they can sing, whether or not you love what they do with the voice and stuff like that. You have Maxwell, Aaliyah. I mean, they can sing. Keisha Cole.
Yeah.
A lesser known, Anthony Hamilton. I don't know.
Oh, Anthony Hamilton's got a heck of a voice. And that's actually, that's 90s. That's like getting into 2000s.
90s into 2000s. Yeah, you're right. But I think 90s.
Anthony Hamilton's got a great voice.
Yeah. I got to see him a few years ago. You like those groups? I saw him here in Cleveland. He was here. There was a jazz festival, even though he's not technically jazz. He was one of the performers for the jazz festival, and it was amazing. Yeah, his voice is incredible. But I think it's underrated because I think most people just know of the cheesy groups with their matching outfits and dances and
what about a little like Candy Rain, Soul for Real?
Oh yeah.
You remember that one?
Oh, I know Candy Rain.
They had these these little these boy bands
right.
I mean,
I also saw here it was Keith Sweat with Genuine.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, Yeah.
Genuine actually was really good. Key Sweat, I didn't think he did a good job, but still. So yeah, not everyone's going to agree, but I think it's very underrated.
Genuine's had a quite a legacy though. I mean, he's got a long tail on his career, you know.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were speaking about his children. He has like 9 children.
I was yeah, no, good. 90s R&B, underrated. Is it underrated though?
Maybe.
Oh,
I see.
Underrated. Who's out here like throwing shade at it though? Like, is it underrated? People, like,
people where I live in
80s,
Cleveland.
2000s, no 90s. I feel like 90s black music gets a lot of love. Hip hop, R&B,
hip hop mainly, I think.
Soul, neo soul, you know, Jill Scott, Erykah Badu. I mean,
yes.
I mean, I'm a huge Erykah Badu fan.
Yeah.
And she's from Dallas. Shout out Erykah Badu.
Oh, okay.
All right, fine. Underrated.
Okay.
Just because it's definitely not overrated.
Right. All right. Agreed.
All right, you're 4-0. Now you got a heater going on. Now, if this was baseball, if you were pitching for the Guardians, no one would be sitting next to you in the dugout right now because they wouldn't want to kibosh the no you got going on right now. So you're 4-0, okay?
Okay.
So let's not blow the fifth one here, okay? Next one, last one up here. Truffles. Ooh, man, throwing heat. Truffles. What say you, Nicole?
Overrated. I do not like truffles. I will eat them if that's like truffle French fries, but completely overrated. Add it to a pasta dish and it adds, I don't know, $20 to your dish. I completely overrated. I just really don't get the fascination.
What Michelin star restaurant pissed you off with these truffles and their cloth napkins, Nicole?
Right. I don't know. I remember I was somewhere in Tuscany in Italy, and you could do like an experience where you go hunt for truffles. I did not do that, but you could buy these like giant black truffles that were ridiculously expensive. And I think they're completely overrated and overused.
If you hunt for the truffle, do you keep the truffle?
I don't know. I don't remember. I mean, that would make sense. Probably. I would say probably, yeah, because you probably pay for the experience and then I would like to think you get to keep what you find, if you find anything. So
people out here, I'm over here knocking stuff over.
Oh, chocolate truffles. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, what a misnomer, huh?
Yeah. Well, chocolate, yeah, Menzel, sure. That yes, I guess we could have been more specific in the type of truffles we were talking about.
No, you're being too inclusive. He's being difficult. That's what's happening here. Okay. He's purposefully missing. Now, what about a chocolate covered black truffle?
No, thank you.
No. God, can you imagine eating like a whole, like just taking a bite out of one? I mean, they shave them usually.
Here we go. Yeah, they shave. I know it would probably, it's just then it's teasing you, you know, like this is going to be delicious. And then,
so I have a love-hate relationship with truffles.
Oh, you do?
Tell me more. I think they taste good. I think they're interesting. I had and this is not the epitome of truffle culture here, but I did have a truff burger last night, you know, with the hot sauce. The truffle, just in their face. You're like, oh, this is what we're dealing with here. Yeah, listen, I know it's a $12 bottle of hot sauce, okay, but I'll tell you what, it's addicting. It's something about it just hooks you.
Okay.
But when that pie comes out, you're at a restaurant, you have a nice, you know, time, you're having a couple glasses of red wine, and somebody, you know, brings out a pizza, and you're like, what the hell just happened? Like, who is like, what is who needs to go home right now? It's the pizza.
Strong. Because it's so strong, you're saying?
Yeah, it smells like body odor.
Right, exactly. The smell is not pleasant. No.
So you're sitting in this, you know, half-star Michelin restaurant, and then all of a sudden this pizza comes out and it smells like body odor and just kills everything. So anyway, I think the Chianti goes bad or something. It's crazy. So you know what? All right, you know, truffles. Here's the other thing though. Truffles were like in the spotlight hard. And I feel like the truffle mania has died down a little bit. Yet you're still triggered by the truffle.
I am triggered because I still see it on the menu, and I don't know why. I think it should come off.
Borderline generational trauma at this point. Okay. All right, fine. Truffles are overrated. You went perfect 5 for 5, Nicole Barile. Give it up for Nicole. Hit that like button, hit that virtual applause button. Nicole, fantastic. Great work here. Great work. If you want to leave it, I know we're over time here. You want to leave us with maybe a final thought before we depart?
Sure. I would say that going back to the topic of learning, you know, if you are working at an organization, if you are in global mobility, when you think about the expat or the learner experience, really think about how they're getting that information and if they are getting that information, right? So many companies will have a passive learning option. So let's say a learning management system, but are your people using it? If they're not getting the important info they need for their assignment. So really rethink how your people are learning.
Give the gift of belonging. I love it.
That too. Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. This is great. What a great reminder. Nicole, really always a pleasure. Thank you for being here. Thanks everybody for getting involved. We wouldn't have a show if it weren't for you. So thanks everyone out there. Hit that like button one more time and stay tuned. We got a lot going on next week. I've got to fly to Indiana tomorrow morning. So this will be the last show of the week, but stay tuned next week. Nicole Barile, Wandr, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Ben. Thanks everyone.